Hello, thanks for tuning in. My name is Stuart, and I've got an eBay shop and this eBay channel which I've been uploading now and again, but I don't really upload very often. However, there's been a lot happening on eBay recently, and I thought it would be useful for me to actually give my views on the new promoted listings changes that eBay are bringing in for certain eBay platforms. I think namely the UK, Australia, and one or two others which are being tested for these changes. I understand that for the USA it's not happened yet, but let me just chime in with my views because this has been all over the internet, or rather on YouTube. So what eBay are doing, we've got two types of promoted listings. One is promoted listing standard, and the other one is the pay-per-click model. Now, I've never used pay-per-click. I like the standard promoted listings because you only actually pay if somebody buys your product, and that's been working fairly well. So it started out on you pay 1% of the sale price plus shipping if somebody clicks on a promoted listing, and then they put it up to minimum 2%, and I think at the moment the minimum that you can pay to get promoted listing is 3%. So I've got maybe a third of my listings on promoted listing standard. The listings that I don't have on promoted listings are those which I've got very little competition, and in which my opinion I don't need promoted listings on those particular listings, because I sell watch parts, and I'll put a link below to my eBay shop, but if you type in a lot of the products which I've got, you will get my product and no other, because I'm the only one that sells them. I'm in a fortunate position in that sense, but I understand most of you out there have got competition across all of your products, and I have got competition on a lot of my products that I want to sell. Consequently, something like a third to a half of my products are on promoted listings, and I pay 3%. Those products that have not sold in years, I experimented and tried paying 10 or 15% on them. And because you've got nothing to lose. If you've got something which has been sitting around for several years, better to pay 15% on top of what you're already paying and get it out of the door than just promote it at 3% and it never sells. So I've found promoted listings can be quite useful. Now, so what eBay are doing, because up until now, for example, if you've got a listing which you've got on promoted listing standard and you're paying 3%, let's say that you sell 20 of these products on this listing per month, okay? It may well be, for example, that 5 of those sales have come through promoted listing standard, and so you have got to pay 3% on those 5 sales out of 20, but the other 15 are organic listings and you don't have to pay anything at all. And I mean, that makes perfect sense, doesn't it? However, eBay have done something really bizarre, and I think something which defies all logic. Look, if eBay feel that sellers have got to pay more fees, then why do it through stealth? We're not stupid. We can see what's going on. Don't want to give eBay this idea, but why not just add, say, 1% to the percentage that you pay for that category? Why not do that? Because then at least what we can do is respond by increasing our prices by whatever we want to cover that. And every time there's a fee increase, I simply increase my prices by more than that amount. So for example, if the fee increases 1%, I increase my price by 2%. Yeah, that's exactly what I do. If shipping goes up, if Royal Mail increase their shipping price by, say, 20 pence, I increase my shipping price by 30 pence. So an extra 10 pence there to take into account some fees, plus I build in some extra margin for myself. That's the way it goes. That's the way I do things. Frankly, it's not good for eBay to keep increasing fees, because we sellers will keep on increasing our selling prices, and eBay will be less competitive with Amazon, for example. I don't think eBay have really thought about this, that the more they increase fees, the more the larger the price increase will be on eBay, and eBay will become less seen as a platform where you can get bargains. But nevertheless, eBay clearly want to make more money, and they probably think that they can't make any more money out of actual sales volume. But what they can do is squeeze sellers, and that's what they're trying to do with this new change. So what the new change is that, for example, if you've got that listing which sells, say, 20 in 1 month, and you've got it on promoted listing standard, if somebody jumps in and buys that listing, say only one person out of 20 on promoted listing standard, then every sale in that period, regardless of whether it's organic or promoted listings, will be counted as a promoted listing. Yeah? Madness, eh? Absolutely defies all logic, and it's demotivational to actually using promoted listing standard at all. So how are we going to, or how are you going to respond to this? How I'm going to respond to it is like this. I'm going to have to go through my listings with a fine-tooth comb, and for example, a lot of my promoted listings that I do, I only sell 1 or 2 a month anyway, and clearly in that case I'm not going to lose anything by leaving things as they are. However, for products where I've got a lot of competition and where I sell quite a lot of volume, for example, I may have a listing that sells 50 in 1 month, and that's on promoted listing standard, and I've got a lot of competition on that product, and it may well be that I sell, shall we say, 15 out of those 50 are on promoted listing standard. It means that I'm now going to be paying say 3% or 5% on the whole 50 listings. I'm going to have to work out whether it's worth my while to actually leave that listing on promoted listing standard, and maybe I'll try and remove it and see how it impacts my sales. However, if I've got a listing which sells 50 and I see that there are only 1 or 2 sales coming through promoted listing standard, then it would be crazy, given that most of the sales, nearly all of the sales, come from organic, to leave it on promoted listing standard if I'm going to have to pay 3% or 5% on all 50 just because I sell 1 or 2 normally on promoted listing standard, then remove it and just lose those 2 sales, which may not be lost anyway. So I recommend that you go through and work out the math. Is it going to be worth your while continuing with promoted listing standard, given the sales profile of a particular listing? It's going to be very difficult to actually do this with the listing tool, where you can just change like 1,000 listings en masse. You and me, we're going to have to go through our listings and see where it's actually worth our while to remain on promoted listing standard, or whether we can let it go and just leave it on organic sales. Obviously, I think this is a bad thing. It's going to create a lot of extra work for us, and at the end of the day it's going to cost us more money. A lot of you guys out there who maybe 3/4 or 80% of your sales are on promoted listings, and only maybe 25 or 15% on organic sales, will probably panic a bit. Now my split is about 30% promoted listings and about 70% organic sales. The problem is, if I leave things as they are, that balance will shift, because many more sales will be brought under the promoted listings umbrella, or should we say cash grab, and I will go from, say, 30% on promoted listing sales to something like 60 or even 70%. It could result in me paying out an extra, I don't know, let's say 100 British pounds a month in fees or more. So I want to try and minimize what it's going to cost me and try not to lose sales. Let me know what you guys think. It'll be really interesting to see if eBay roll this out to the USA, because that's where the muscle is. That's where these sellers are probably going to rebel. But I mean, how can we rebel? How can eBay sellers rebel? Speaking personally about my own business, for what I sell, watch parts, eBay is the place to go. That's where all the buyers are. I don't have a website. I've had a website before and it used to pull in hardly any sales. I decided to let it go. So if I lose eBay, I'll lose my business. It's important for me for eBay to continue. Amazon is not really the market for watch parts for me. It's all about eBay. And of course, if I lose eBay somehow, Of course, I will go down the website route. I'll have no option, but I don't want to do that. I've find that I can do quite well selling on eBay, and I hope that I can continue to do that. But we can see that eBay are continuing to try and squeeze sellers. I think probably one of the reasons is that their promoted listing pay-per-click model has been such an abysmal failure. I've never used it. I've not been tempted to use it with the with the discounts which they keep offering me, the sweeteners which they're trying to get me on board with pay-per-click. I'm not going to use pay-per-click. I'm never going to use pay-per-click. And obviously, by introducing this model, by rolling it out, it's forcing sellers to accept unfair models, or models which don't really work well. So we're going to have to try and make the best of a bad job with this with these new changes. Okay, well, thanks for watching, and let me know what your comments are. Bye for now.